Hi there. Many others like you have asked, does Deuteronomy 22 command a rape victim to marry her rapist? You have the question, the Bible has the answer, and we can help you with it. Discover more on gotquestions.org. The short answer is no, but stick around for the explanation. Deuteronomy 22, 28 through 29 is often cited by skeptics as evidence that the Bible is backwards, cruel, and misogynist, and thus cannot be the Word of God. Admittedly, it is a difficult passage to interpret, but by the end of this video, you'll see its provisional meaning as clear as day. In the NIV, it reads like this: If a man happens to meet a virgin who is not pledged to be married and rapes her, and they are discovered, he shall pay her father 50 shekels of silver. He must marry the young woman, for he has violated her. He can never divorce her as long as he lives. You might be asking yourself, how is this fair to rape victims? Well, it's not, if we are talking about rape. The key to understanding this is that, unfortunately, the NIV's translation is a poor one at this point, and the word translated rape can mean other things. For example, the late apologist Greg Banson explains, the Hebrew word simply means to take hold of something, grasp it in hand, and by application, to capture or seize something. It is the verb used for handling the harp and flute, the sword, the sickle, the shield, the oars, and the bow. It is likewise used for taking God's name or dealing with the law of God. Joseph's garment was grasped, even as Moses took the 2 tablets of the law. In other words, the Hebrew word itself does not suggest force of any kind and should not be translated as rape. It is necessary to take Deuteronomy 22, 28 through 29 together with Exodus 22, 16 through 17, which says this: If a man seduces a virgin who is not betrothed and lies with her, he shall give the bride price for her and make her his wife. If her father utterly refuses to give her to him, he shall pay money equal to the bride price for virgins. Now these 2 passages cover the same situation. Boil it down, and it's a man sleeping with a virgin who is not betrothed. Note that in Exodus 22, there is no hint of force or rape. There is only enticement or seduction. The penalty is that he must pay the dowry and marry the girl. If the girl's father doesn't like the match, he can refuse to allow the marriage. According to the halakha, the girl had a similar right of refusal, but the man who fooled around must still pay the dowry. And so, in the words of Old Testament scholar Sandra Richter, walkaway Joes were required to man up as regards the woman they had compromised and the potential children they had created. Now, stepping back from our passage in question, it's always helpful to view the context. Here it's Deuteronomy 22, 13 through 29. The entire passage is devoted to offenses involving women. Verses 13 through 22 deal with crimes involving a married woman. Then verses 23 through 29 deal with crimes involving an unmarried woman. The fact that Deuteronomy 22, 28 through 29 deals with consensual sex, not rape, is proved in 4 ways. Now here's the proof. Number 1, a comparison with the parallel law in Exodus 22, 16 through 17 shows that no force is involved. The seizing of the girl, as the ESV and New King James put it, has more to do with seduction than coercion. Exhibit 2. The verses immediately preceding Deuteronomy 22, 28 through 29 have already dealt with rape, and the rapist is executed. There's no more reason to deal with rape again in verses 28 through 29. Further, the penalties are different, proving different crimes. Exhibit 3. Deuteronomy 22, 28 contains an important statement that cannot be overlooked, and they are discovered. In other words, it's not just the man who is found out, it's both of them. Emphasis on they. It's a case in which they both share a portion of the blame. Exhibit 4. There are 2 distinct Hebrew words used in the same passage. The word translated rapes in Deuteronomy 22, 25 is the Hebrew word chazak, but verse 28 contains a different verb, translated seizes in the ESV, tafas. The different verbs suggest different actions. Now, taking all this and summing it up, no, the Old Testament never commands a rape victim to marry her rapist. The irrevocable marriage contract was reserved for men who had mistreated a woman and damaged her ability to marry. The New Living Translation comes the closest to the law's original intent. Suppose a man has intercourse with a young woman who is a virgin, but is not engaged to be married. If they are discovered, he must pay her father 50 pieces of silver. Then he must marry the young woman because he violated her, and he may never divorce her as long as he lives. Dr. Richter sums up, in Deuteronomy, victims of sexual misconduct were constitutionally protected from the economic consequences of assault and seduction. Walkaway Joes were required to man up. The young woman was shielded from the economic and social fallout of the encounter. Rape victims were assumed innocent. Women so abused were expected to report. Convicted rapists were executed. All right, that answers your question. Does Deuteronomy 22 command a rape victim to marry her rapist? I think we answered that one. That's a no. Thanks for watching. Here's another suggested video. Go ahead, click on it. Expand your knowledge. I dare ya.